Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Vaccine Year. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, July 30th, and we are joined by our all-star panel of top local journalists, Ryan P. Cruz from The Independent, Jade Martinez-Pogue from Newshawk, and Josh Molina, a man of many media platforms. Thank you all for coming.
Jerry, it's the summer of Josh with all my scoops. That's how I want to be introduced from now on.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a note of that. So Jade, while you were off camping, it appears we are now in what, a fifth wave of COVID as the Delta variant has its way with the unvaccinated. What's going on?
Yeah, so I think, people were finally, the state opened mid-June, and I think people were finally kind of starting to get back to at least some sense of pre-pandemic normalcy. And in the past few weeks, the county went from reporting like an average of less than 10 cases a day to over 100 yesterday. And just, there's a good portion of the population that's vaccinated, but like anecdote, people who are vaccinated are getting the virus again, with the Delta variant. And I think it's just a reminder that I don't think anyone thought COVID was ever gone, but it's just a reminder that it's still very much here.
And Dr. Henning Ansorg, public health officer to the Stars, calls it a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I was interested in your latest newsletter, which people can sign up for at Newshawk. But he said that 80% of the new infections are unvaccinated, 20% are vaccinated. That's a higher number than we've seen in other locales. And that's a so-called breakthrough infection. How concerned are they about that?
So the good thing about the vaccine is that it does protect against the severe illness. No vaccine is going to completely stop you from getting the virus. So they do happen, but I think they're less concerned because there's a very small chance that a breakthrough case will end up in the hospital. And I think as of right now, none of the people who are in the hospital with COVID have been vaccinated. They've all been unvaccinated.
Yeah.
But the danger is that I think it's still kind of unclear how much you can infect someone else. So even if you're vaccinated and you're asymptomatic, but you have the virus, it's kind of unknown how much of a spreader you can be.
I mean, and this is just crazy making because it's entirely preventable. I mean, the vaccine is effective, it's there. And what are we at? 52% of total population, so almost half the people haven't. I mean,
and
obviously
we've hovered around there for a good amount of time now. It hasn't really been increasing that much.
All right, and then Ryan, you covered a march of people with really big brains, the anti-vax community. I guess they went from the wharf to City Hall or something. Who was that? What was that all about?
So it was organized by a local group called Stand Up Santa Barbara, and it seemed from being there, it looked like a lot of people from out of town coming around California. I saw signs from Ojai. I saw signs that people came from Orange County. It was part of this worldwide rally for freedom. They say freedom from health mandates, but like Jade says, we've been hovering around that 50% for a little bit now, and people are saying it's not there's not really people on the fence anymore. It's people that aren't really thinking, I don't know how you say it, thinking logically, because on some of the materials they were handing out there, I was looking at them and they were hard to follow those arguments of why they wouldn't get vaccinated. And they say there's cases of people being injured by the vaccine, but I think there's more cases of people unvaccinated.
Were they also protesting smallpox vaccinations and seatbelts?
I mean, it was hard to nail down one singular argument. I saw a sign there that said bring back influenza. That really confused me. I didn't know if this man wanted to just get rid of all vaccines in general, or I don't know. And this kind of rhetoric kind of gets dangerous when, like we're saying, we're going through another early summer. It was looking positive. Things were opening up. Businesses were able to operate with more freedom, and it seems like we're coming back to another deja vu of last summer, and this is kind of, it was confusing. One thing that got me was they were having chants that were like, my body, my choice, your body, your choice. And in the same 20 feet, there's a pro-life flag right there waving. So it's hard to nail down one argument.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the people who are unvaccinated, maybe for whatever reasons it's inaccessible, but you really do have this hardcore, and I hate to bring up Trump, but Trumpist 15%, maybe 20% of the country that's like, you're not going to tell me what to put in my, it's crazy.
You still see them in California. Like you think that maybe we're in California and we have a different climate here, but you still see these pockets of people that are either taken over by some rhetoric, or maybe they're looking to seek different sources and they're getting all their information from this one place.
And to be fair, though, it's not just those nuts who were protesting that Ryan was covering. There's a large number of people of color, Latinos. They don't trust the government. It hasn't been tested long enough. I'm not defending them, but I mean, there are people who've got a history in this country of being misled about what they're taking. And so there's a little bit of that too. That being said, I don't understand why we don't have mandatory vaccinations for people who work in government at a minimum, because you work for the government, you sign on to work for the government, you're a government employee, you should abide by government rules. And I think that they should lead by example, and we should have mandatory vaccinations, particularly in schools where they're asking our kids to go back to schools, but they're not requiring the teachers to be vaccinated. They're not requiring the staff, the classified employees to be vaccinated, yet they want our kids to go back and wear masks. And I think that that's a inconsistent, hypocritical message. And I also think we're caught in the crossfire if you're a parent, because Gavin Newsom is facing this recall. We know that the polling numbers are about even now, and he's not going to do anything to upset his constituent group. And so we're probably just going to have to live in limbo like this until after the recall election, and then we'll see what he does. So I think it's just kind of an unfortunate time around. And vaccination, if you work for the state, you work around kids, you work around students, you should get vaccinated.
Well, Jade, I was going to ask you about that. So the governor's order, as I understand it, does cover state employees. Does it cover healthcare employees? Does it cover public health or public safety people?
It's healthcare employees, and I believe healthcare settings, along with congregate living. I believe there's a whole list that kind of explains what falls under each category.
The county has no mandate. The cities have no mandate locally, right? Nobody has. Part of me says, let's just let natural selection take its course. If Darwin was right, then we'll lose a lot of Trump voters. But on the other hand, you see, I think some corporations now saying you can't work for us unless you're going to be vaccinated. So, it seems there is a kind of a free market, if not a solution, a way to push toward that 80 or 85% natural immunity. Another thing, Ryan, that happened this week, I guess Fiesta, which is still trying to have Fiesta, is not going to have the Mercado at De La Guerra Plaza. So we're out of luck on Raul's goat tacos.
Yeah, De La Guerra Plaza is not going to have the Mercado anymore. And their statement was strictly mentioned COVID as the sole reason as for their closing down.
Your story suggested there were other reasons.
Yeah, there's certain contingent of locals that are still saying that with good reason, that bars are still going to be open. There's still going to be the Guadalupe Mercado. There's going to be people gathered publicly, which doesn't mean that they should just have it open, but there are other reasons where it could be financial. I heard from organizers they weren't going to fill all the booths to the capacity that it normally was. They did have a really quick turnaround between the June 15th when they were announced when they.
Ryan fell off his chair. That was
We're gonna have to recast the show.
that,
Start over.
was exciting. Okay, well, we'll look for Ryan to finish his thought.
I think the Mercado people like, hey, don't reveal us. Come on, caught up with them.
Well, and Josh, to go back to your point, I guess the kids are going to be required to wear masks. Yes, Jade, is that part
Yeah.
of the order?
Universal masking indoors. Indoors for all staff,
So,
faculty, students.
The state has mandated, they've given money to the schools for independent study or back to in-person. And the idea is when they made this decision, we hadn't seen the second little spike or this fifth spike or whatever it is. And so they want to encourage people to go back to school. So they've dropped the remote learning program, but I feel as though they're going to have to bring it back if the numbers continue to go up. And what happened to you, Ryan?
Yeah, that was great. That looked like an old Saturday Night Live bit where you just Chevy Chase just fell off the chair. What happened?
We have some technical difficulties over here. I don't know. My computer wasn't plugged in, and I got booted out. I think maybe somebody didn't want me talking about that.
We got a power outage on the west side.
Hey, just to close on the Fiesta. So no parade, right?
There's no parade. We have a couple of the events, the Noches de las Rondas. They have the one at the Mission, and like I said, it's not a old Spanish days, but they do have the Guadalupe Market, which I talked to Father Pedro Lopez today. They're still going to have that starting Friday. They're looking, because of the other Mercado got closed, they're looking at what they can do to maybe limit capacity, to make sure that it's safe environment for everybody, but they are still planning on having that.
Yeah, our good friend Ernie Solomon has been sending out emails calling it the Fiesta of Death. He wants everything
Yeah.
canceled, but it's too bad because they couldn't do anything last year, so of course they lost money. They're going to lose money again this year, and then the nonprofits that actually gets a fair amount of revenue, some of them from Fiesta, from those booths and other vendor things during the week are all out of luck too. Real quick, Brian, what's the latest at City College about vaccines versus no vaccine?
So City College, there's a big push to have a vaccine mandate by three groups that represent staff and faculty. That's the CSEA, that's classified employees. There's the Academic Senate, and then there's the Faculty Association. So they are all pushing for a vaccine mandate to get approved through the Board of Trustees. The last meeting, there was a memorandum saying that there should be masks on campus, stuff like that, but there's nothing about a vaccine, and it's not on a board agenda at the moment, but there's a push to still have that happen. And like you said, there's only a couple weeks before fall semester starts on August 17th. So we hope, or we'll see what happens.
And remind me if I got the sequence of events right. The Board of Trustees voted 4-3 to require vaccines, and then the
no, it was a vote to not approve the vaccine mandate.
Okay.
So they were split on that issue, and then Goswami resigned. There's still been a lot of push and public comment about it in Board of Trustees meetings, but it hasn't been an agendized item yet.
And meanwhile, Jade, what UC and CSUs are all requiring faculty and students to be vaccinated to come back.
Mhm.
Right. I'm with you, Josh. Mandates. We got to have more mandates on this. Although as a national political matter, just parenthetically, the Democrats are worried about having mandates because they figure the only people that's going to motivate to vote are the anti-vaxxers.
And one thing about this, there's a big push to have if there's an FDA approved vaccine, I think that'll be the tipping scale of these schools that are on the fence to be like, okay, now we can do it, because there's a big sticking point to people saying that it's not FDA approved. And that's kind of their rock to stand on right now, because it's a solid argument that if you are not sure. So I'm sure if we get an FDA approved vaccine, that might help.
Yeah, and just to close on COVID, Jade, your sources have any insight or information when we might have a vaccine available for kids, for younger kids, 12?
I haven't seen anything from our public health officials, but I've seen things like from like White House journalists on
Yeah.
Twitter and stuff saying soon. I don't remember the exact, I want to say September, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I mean, if a bunch of kids start getting sick, then we're really in the soup. So, okay. So Josh, big bombshell scoop for you this week. The District 6 City Council race where Megan Hartman holds office right now is getting interesting. What happened?
Well, this is really exciting. It's like a pay-per-view boxing match or something where we put these like big names against each other and now they're going to run off. It doesn't make sense. It's not a normal matchup, but we're going to see it. We got Megan Hartman, who is the incumbent.
Always comes back to UFC with you, doesn't it?
It's MMA. UFC is a brand. MMA is the sport, Jerry. But we'll talk about that another day.
Okay.
Megan Hartman, the incumbent, she's supposed to skate through, right? This is supposed to be easy money for her. She's widely popular, as Jade reported, appointed to the Coastal Commission. She's politically on the rise. And there are a couple people who pulled papers, whether they fill it out and get the signatures, who knows? But all of a sudden, Nina Johnson, the senior assistant to the city administrator, Paul Casey, she knows everything at City Hall. Like she knows where the bodies are buried. She's been there dating back several city administrators, several council members, and she is well liked among people downtown and in the business community. And so she pulls papers. Everybody freaks out. It's like a small earthquake. Nina, did you know Nina? Can't believe Nina's running. I can't believe it. What is she thinking? Why is she running? Why is she going to take a pay cut? Right. So it's this huge buzz around her campaign already. And she's pulled papers. She says, hey, I've been doing the work for downtown. I think I can be more effective as a city leader than I can be in the city administrator's office. So she's doing it. And I mean, I don't know. It's hard to oust an incumbent. But Nina Johnson, it's like she's the celebrity with the name recognition that you plopped in here, and it's going to be really interesting now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many more times I'll get to say this, but Megan Hartman has never won a single vote, of course. So, it's
She won Gavin Newsom's vote, Jerry, so that matters.
She plays the inside. Go ahead.
That's interesting too, because if Nina does win, then Megan will have to give up her seat on the Coastal Commission. And because she's no longer an elected official. And so it was kind of a big deal when someone from Santa Barbara County got chosen to represent our area, because they typically alternate between Ventura and SLO counties.
Henry.
And so then it's the point, she's only been in there for a few months now. Like, would they give it to Doss, or are they gonna just skip over Santa Barbara County and go to one of the other?
Jade, you just made Jerry Roberts Megan Hartman's biggest supporter now, because the last thing Jerry Roberts wants is Doss Williams as a member of the California.
So is Doss going to be behind Nina now, I guess? So Josh, now I'm thinking back, and I guess it was before our economic development czar was hired. So what, it would have been last year. There was a big outpouring of support for Nina to be hired into that position, because she had been doing a lot of kind of pop-up stuff to try to keep State Street together. And a couple hundred people showed up at the meeting. There was a lot of, I guess, primarily downtown support, business support.
Yeah, if she were smart, she'd get a tape of that meeting. She'd cut the 15 to 20 people who said, we love Nina. Nina's doing a great job. Hire Nina, and just splice it together for a video for her campaign, because these were back to back downtown people saying, You don't need to go hire somebody. We've got her right here. She was instrumental in creating the event to close State Street before the pandemic. The State Street underpass had some of these like cool lights and events and art, and then she closed it. There were basketball courts, there were hoops, there was all these activities as sort of an experiment to bring people downtown, and it was successful. So she has all these connections and she knows people. The real question though is, why would you jump in when people have already raised a whole bunch of money? Also, she makes about 140 grand a year. The city council makes like high 40s. So how much money do you have that you can take $100,000 pay cut for 4 years? That's interesting to me. She just recently moved to that district a year ago. So there's some questions about why would you do this? And what she told me in my story is that just leap faith. She didn't take a risk. Like, leaders have to take risks, and she's going to do it. And the city council needs experience, and I'm the one to do it. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this happening in the larger sort of backdrop of this massive revolution at City Hall. Paul Casey's leaving. Obviously, Rob Dayton's out. We got a new community development director. We got a new public works. We got all this stuff in transition. The finance directors, you know, we had a new one hired there. So it's like, what the heck is going on at City Hall? Even the staff wants to run for city council.
Yeah, and I was going to say after that meeting, you know, I mean, Lena was someone who for many years, she's always seemed to be around the ball whenever there was a big issue. She kind of disappeared after that. Was Paul Casey unhappy about that? Did he sort of push her aside? What happened?
I don't know, you know, she wanted to be the economic development manager. She didn't get hired. And, you know, maybe she just kind of said, I'm going to back away from the public attention for a little while and just sort of, you know, heal her wounds. Who knows? It's kind of stinging when you're doing all the work and then you don't get picked. And maybe she's just like, I'm going to take a step back and be quiet for a while. I don't know.
So what would be the big difference between Hartman and Nina Johnson as a political matter or as a policy matter? You can take your pick.
Well, we could probably ask the panel here, right? Like, there's some name recognition with Megan Hartman, right? Like, I don't know how many people who are not part of the city apparatus, to steal your word, Jerry, are Nina Johnson, who know Nina Johnson, okay? But Megan Hartman, she's been doing stuff. She's been in the community. She has that incumbency. She's a player. She can slide back and forth among all these groups, and everybody still sort of has a positive perspective of her. And Nina's kind of an insider. She's been here forever, for almost 25 years. But I just don't know if that's going to resonate to voters in the district. I've been told she's going to raise a lot of money, and we'll have to.
She's going to get all those downtown guys, Richard Birdie and Jim Cannell, and probably your friend Ray Maboub and
my friend.
I thought you went to high school with him, but Ed St. George, and I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen with that. And then the other issue out of City Hall on the murals, the unending tale of the Ortega Park murals. What happened with that, Brian? Brian?
Well, they had to occupy Ortega Park on last Sunday. They had an event which is kind of to raise awareness for and get the community voice. And after all the dust settles, it seems like the community just wants to keep the ones that are possible. So there was at the HLC meeting, there was an approved report, a mural evaluation report, and that's going to be going into anytime it goes before any city council or anything going forward, that's going to be included. And the recommendation in that is to keep the ones that are salvageable, that are in good quality, good condition, and that mean a lot to the community, that the community has spoken out for. And then so there's 5 of them that are designated as being saved in the spot they are or moved within the park. Then there's a couple that are in kind of good condition, kind of have damage, that will be recreated or re-envisioned. That is going to have community support. So back in the 60s and 70s, there was youth that kind of helped the artists like Manuel and Zueta to do the murals, and they're going to try to do something like that. So the youth of today can kind of be a part of that going forward. And they're going to try to include the artists and include these people in the community that are being very vocal about it. So I think there's kind of a consensus to keep the ones that we can save. And one thing that's coming out of this talking to Alejandro Gutierrez and some of the other city council members is that this is going to change how they do this community outreach. And when they're updating parks and when they're doing stuff that's going to be public property, they're really with Dwight Murphy Park, with the Eastside Neighborhood Park, they've been having these events of come out and tell us this is what our plans are. Come out and tell us if that's okay. If there's something that you don't like there. So I think that this is going to have a positive effect with how they do this community outreach going forward.
And Josh, the big issue that it lies behind this, of course, was this grant that the city had applied for to redo the whole park, and they just kind of blew off the murals in that, and then the mural thing became this huge issue. What's the status of the grant, and is this a humiliating defeat for the Department of Parks and Recreation director?
Well, I think it's a humiliating wake-up call that they did all this work and they did outreach, but they did it in a way where they didn't really have the conversation about the murals. And for people who don't appreciate Chicano art, historical Mexican American indigenous art, they may just look at it and literally just see like paint. Okay, that's the problem, right? That's implicit bias. Like they want dolphins and they think that's art. Well, this is art. And so they kind of just missed it. And so it took Mark Alvarado and Alejandro Gutierrez and Manuel Sueta and others to be like, stop. I don't know the status of the grant. I believe it's still out there. It's still open. It's still in limbo. I believe they have not heard back yet. Clearly, though, having some agreement on these murals is going to help them be eligible to get some kind of funding here. The biggest issue is Ortega Park is a neighborhood park, and they're trying to make it look safer and nicer, and it's a tough thing because the Parks and Rec goes in there and they have this textbook urban Parks and Rec planning perspective of how do we revitalize the park. And if they're not from Santa Barbara, they're doing it on paper, which means gentrification. They want to make it look like some park from any town USA. It's like everybody who lives right around Ortega Park, generations of them, that's home to them. And not that they don't want all the crime and the drug stuff that goes on there. Okay, I'm not endorsing that, but I'm saying there is a sense of you got to go to the people who use the park, okay, and not just the special interest groups before you start to say, here's what we're going to do. And so they dropped the ball there. I mean, I'll give you an example before we go. Ryan mentioned it. Dwight Murphy, they went to, they're working with Gwendolyn Strong Foundation. They're going to be a universal accessible park, right? That's like good community partner cooperation. That's something they identified as something we want to partner with. They need to do more of that with the community.
All right, good place to leave it. Josh Molina attacks dolphins. You heard it here first and only on Newsmakers. Thank you very much, Jade Martinez.
Trying to help your ratings, Jerry. That's all.
Ryan P. Cruz. There's how you wrote the headline. Ryan P. Cruz and Josh Molina. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time on Newsmakers with JR. Don't forget to get your vaccine. Thank you.